Okay, so my name's Sam Payne. I'm from the University of Southampton. I'm a PhD research student, and I'm looking at developing methods of charging for heat in social housing with a view to improving network efficiencies. I'm specifically looking at social housing, particularly sort of council housing, and I'm looking at a case study site which is actually in Portsmouth. It's local authority owned. And it's a sort of a large, or reasonably large heat network that provides heating and hot water to about 500 council homes, all within sort of eight council housing blocks. Currently, the heat networks, all the tenants are charged on a fixed rate scheme. So regardless of how much heating and hot water they use, they pay the same amount each week. It's sort of normalised across the whole site. If you're a building that uses more heat, you're not sort of penalised for that. Along with that, there's sort of the consequence. You don't have to pay attention to how much heat you use. You can heat your home, and you could just leave the window closed and and be sort of quite energy efficient. But you're still going to pay the same amount each week as the person who heats their home to a really high temperature and leaves the windows open the whole time. So they're all sort of old high-rise tower blocks, but a couple of them have been sort of refurbed and had insulation added to them. So person A could live in one of the refurb blocks and have, it's much better insulated. It's got newer double glazing, and that person could be using, I don't know, 5,000 kilowatt hours of heat just to heat their home. Person B could live in one of the older blocks that hasn't been refurbed. It has got double glazing, but it's much older. It's probably not as thermally efficient. But that person could sort of take more responsibility on themselves, actually, in their behaviour. They just don't like to waste heat, so they could be using, I don't know, 4,000 kilowatt hours, even though their actual requirement is maybe a little bit higher, whereas person A's is probably a lot lower, but their wasteful behaviour then uses that much more heat. So to actually find out how all the tenants were interacting with the heat, we did a sort of a small pilot monitoring study where we looked at the temperature and relative humidities of about 16 participating units. Each of those, we then sort of looked at their behaviour and their adaptive thermal comfort temperature and tried to sort of classify them into different energy user profiles. So that this information is then going to be sort of key for the council, so they can look at sort of which tenants might need more help in certain areas. From our pilot study, we found that on average, the average temperature that these tenants were heating their homes to was about 24 degrees. Sort of compare that to sort of the Public Health England standard, which recommends you heat to 18 degrees, or World Health Organization usually sort of about 21 in living rooms. So they're heating their homes a lot higher. So that was only the average. So some of them were even higher than that. But so they're heating their homes to a higher level than is recommended. And we also found that the ventilation rates were a lot higher. So the tenants seemed to be, or appeared to be regularly using windows to sort of increase ventilation rates and control the indoor temperature rather than actually interacting with the heating system itself. So really we found that behaviour and those adapted thermal comfort temperatures are a result of the existing method of charging, which is the fixed rate system. We're sort of developing all those different user profiles and then coming up with a range of or a number of different charging methods, which we can then sort of model each user type against and see what the effects could be on energy, carbon, well-being, and economics as well, I suppose. I'm hoping that this research can sort of advise councils or even sort of private sector for people who are hoping to go from a fixed rate model potentially onto a full commercial rate, and it will sort of give them some indication of how well tenants might adapt to those, and how they can sort of control the change, I suppose, to avoid excessive fuel poverty and that sort of thing.